Hello and welcome to the Hidden Village of Art. I'm Hikimura and today we're going to learn the art of making a rabbit digging box. Now, first we're going to go ahead and talk about the materials that we're going to need. What you're going to need is wood, specifically untreated pine. I'll have a listing of the different types of wood that are dangerous and are big no-nos to build things for rabbits. Pine is very much safe. So this particular piece you can find in your local hardware store or hardware stores that have abilities to sell timber. So like your Bunnings or your Masters or anything that would just sell wood. You're going to make sure that this is 9 centimeters wide by 1.5 centimeters thick. And just get it as long, the longest length as you're able to get. Now you're going to get 12 pieces of 670 millimeters for one side of the box, and then another side for the longer side, 700 millimeters. This will make sure that the box that you create has enough. The next thing you're going to purchase is just some regular plywood. Now, as you can see here, I still have the original tag, and this was for 600 millimeters by 897 millimeters. Yes, this is a bit longer, but you will be cutting it to the dimensions that I'll be mentioning soon. So you need a nice good piece of plywood for the lid part of the project. The next piece you'll be purchasing are some timber screws. Now, as you notice, these are by 10 grams by 45 millimeters. I went with screws because they're easier. They're much better to holding on to the pieces of wood and are less likely that the piece will fall apart. Another item you're going to need is a storage container. This storage container is 86 liters. I'll have their dimensions over on the side, and that'll help you out in choosing the correct box for your rabbit digging box. A marking pencil, a hammer for hammering those smaller screws for the hinges, 3 hinges with matching screws. This will differ depending on how large your entranceway for your rabbit is going to be. Clamps, so that way you can hold down the wood. And gloves, just in case if you're the type that doesn't have a good grip, or just in case if you don't want to deal with the splinters in the wood. Safety goggles to protect your eyes. So remember, safety first. File or sandpaper. I use a combination of both on this project, so that way the edges were nice and smooth and to ensure that the rabbits don't get any unnecessary splinters. Screwdriver with a Phillips head tip. This is so that way if you're like me that the screws didn't go in correctly, you're going to have to go in by hand. Of course, if you were wondering what a Phillips head looks like, this is the bit. So it basically looks like a type of star. I'll ask your hardware professional to give you some tips as to which particular bit would be suited for the type of screws you need. Different types of rulers, and of course a saw. And of course your power drill, which you're going to need a Phillips head number 2 bit. Last but not least, you're going to be needing an air respirator. Now, this is to protect your lungs. It is said that pine dust can cause problems with the lungs, so this is just for extra safety. So the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and build the front and back parts. Now what I did is that, as I mentioned earlier, that we cut 670 meters, 12 pieces. Those 12 pieces are going to be used to make the front and back parts. So as you notice from the front, we have put together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces to make the depth of the box is going to be about 600 millimeters in depth. So we used other pieces of wood that we had lying around to hold on to the sides, and so I placed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws to hold in the 6 pieces. Now as you notice, they're not flush together. This is so that way when you want to pick it up and move it around, you're able to have like a handle on the bottom, so that way you can go ahead and move it about. And then of course the back end doesn't have the front part piece here, so that's the major difference. And basically this piece is about a little less than 18 centimeters thick and centimeters big. So it really depends though on my rabbits. My rabbits are actually quite small, so this hole is not that big. So it really depends on what type of rabbit that you have, that this entrance hole may or may not be bigger or smaller or relatively the same size. This size length is a good safe size for a nice medium to small rabbit, so this will work just fine. Next, we're going to go ahead and basically you repeat the same steps for the side. Now as for the side, you can see that it's much different. Basically what I did is that I put in the screws flush against our fronts in the initial, not in the joining part, but in the actual piece that would be making the frame of the box. So again, our 6 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that are attached together through the sides. Now, this project is definitely a 2-man project, so I recommend that you go ahead and have a friend, or if you have any clamps, that would probably give you a help or a start in order to make this project. Now, as you notice here, we have a type of shelving for our rabbits. Now, they go ahead and they jump over to here, exiting through here. And then in the main area, this area is going to be occupied by a storage container. Now that we finished constructing our box along with our ramp, we're going to go ahead and work on the storage container. Okay, now it didn't originally look like this. There were handles and sort. So just to let you know, these handles were cut off and then it's been sanded down so that way it's nice and smooth. The same thing for the other side, because you're not going to need them actually. So next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to go ahead and we're going to just saw off one of the sides. This is so that way it goes in rather nice and smoothly. after we've sawed it off, we're going to go ahead and just sand this so that way it's nice and smooth. Okay, our storage container is now ready. As you can see, we have the one lip that still has the original lip and one that has the smaller lip. So let's see if our storage container fits. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this thing in. Assistant!
Yes, mistress.
I need help putting this box in. The storage box into the digging box, please.
Certainly, mistress. Perfect. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Down, 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 down. Go.
And it fits in perfectly. Thank you, assistant.
You're welcome, mistress. Until you need me again.
And that was my assistant. So the last thing that you need to do is just go ahead and add the digging materials. So you could go ahead and try any of these materials out. I recommend newspaper or any type of shredded paper. This is as long as you make sure that the newspaper ink is soy based, which you can easily find out by either calling your newspaper company. Another good material is soil, but please make sure that it's just regular soil, no additives of any type, that it's just plain soil. Another thing is sand, but I do highly recommend play sand, the ones that the kids play in, just because the granules are much bigger. Not beach sand, because the natural sand is actually quite small and it can work its way into other things. Play sand is much, much bigger and much safer for your rabbit. So that's all for today. That's how you create your rabbit digging box. If you have any questions or any comments, just go ahead and leave them down in the comment area. If you like this video, go ahead and brush up that like button. If you're interested in seeing more videos, then go ahead and click that subscribe button. That's all for today. Shadow artists, vanish.